I was afraid to even ask. So it was a season of my life that I feel like was pretty emotionally heavy. We had already been going through IVF, some infertility treatments for maybe like 2 years by that point.
That sounds right, yeah.
I just felt like I was completely losing myself. I feel like I've always been a pretty positive, bubbly, confident person, but that process can wear on you, and you start to feel not only physically not like yourself when you're doing all the shots and all these different medicines, but mentally and emotionally you start to have these feelings, maybe this will never happen for me. Maybe I'm not deserving of a family. I noticed even in our marriage, like, I didn't feel as connected with my husband. I was given this opportunity to do this Dancing with the Stars fundraiser locally, and at first I was like, well, my body doesn't feel like my body right now. Like, I can't imagine putting on a little dance dress and getting out there and doing something like that. But I was like, but also that might be a distraction as to what is actually going on in my life right now, which is not in my control, but I could go focus on learning a new skill and having some fun and cutting loose. And so I ended up saying yes, completely out of my element. It was exactly what I needed to start feeling like me again. To feel like when you are learning something new, you're excited again. And it was the first time that I was feeling excited. They give you like 5 free lessons to get you ready to do your dance for the Dancing with the Stars, but nobody's ready after 5. Like, hey, if you really want to be ready, we should probably do another 10 lessons. And I was like, well, how much are the lessons? And he was like, oh, like $150 a lesson. And I immediately had this feeling of sadness and like defeat. And I went right into that, well, I can't spend that kind of money. Like, I feel guilty, right? Like, I'm putting everything we have, all of our life savings, into having a family. Like, that's selfish to spend that kind of money on me. And I had so much fear over even the thought of asking my husband for like permission to use our credit card on something that was quote unquote not a need, a luxury, or maybe just a want in that moment.
And I remember when you initially came and talked to me about it, it's like the first 5 lessons were going so well. And, you know, every single time Angie comes back from these lessons and she's like, man, Stefan says I'm a natural, have so much fun working with him. And I'm like, awesome, great. Like, that's the report every single lesson. This is awesome. I feel great. And she's, you know, I can see it emotionally. She's in a place a good place. And then the 5th lesson comes around and they're whatever, $150 a piece. And I think I want to do 10. And she kind of like looks at me like physically tightens up when she asks. And I was like, well, do you not want to do them? Like, why with that response? It's just like, oh, of course I do. But like, there's no way we can afford that right now. There's no way we can afford for you not to do it. Yes, we're definitely tight financially right now, but you know, money at the end of the day, even though it doesn't grow on trees like we were taught, it is renewable. You can go make more of it, you know, but what you can never get back is time. And in this time, we had spent these years in this heavy sort of emotional place, and now we found something that made her feel lighter, made her feel joyful, made her feel like herself. There's just no way I would even think twice about that. It was just a revelation for me, because then I'm like, what can I do? How can we communicate this better to like, dude, we're on the same page. We are all, you know, I am all about you and me both feeling that way all of the time and doing whatever it takes to feel that way, because everything else will flow from that. You know, we're running a business together. We can't afford to be sad saps all the time. We can't afford to be not practicing what we preach. When we have kids one day, we can't afford to be not setting the example that we want to set. You know what I mean? And so to me, it was a no-brainer, but then I also had to look inside and be like, okay, how can I communicate this? This is what we want for our family. We want to live life a certain way. We want to have certain experiences, and we want to value our time more than we value our money.
I think we notice if I start to get a little wild in the household, I'm not as like happy as I generally am. We can now recognize the cues and be like, what do we need to do for you to be okay with spending time on you? Because I'll still get into these modes. Like, I'm human, right? Where I'm looking at the household, I'm looking at what needs to be done for the kids, or going into the mode of, oh, I shouldn't do that. But really the best thing I can do for our house, I would say, or the best thing I can do for our marriage or that I can do for my kids is to recognize if I do start to have those feelings of guilt or selfishness, and I'm like, it's actually my sign that it's probably time that I invest in myself in some way, because I probably stopped developing myself. And when I stop developing myself, I think that we both know, wow, there's a lot of power to that and what it does to the ripple effect in our home, and not in the most beautiful way. So yeah, I think that we're great at like acknowledging it with each other and communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've noticed something's changed. Like, what can we do about that?
Life in general, it's really hard to just be neutral. A plateau is not really a neutral emotional space. Like if we're not growing and expanding, we're feeling like garbage. And I think that's us, but I think that's everybody in general. And so a lot of us have been taught to believe like, oh, sometimes you do get stuck, you do plateau. That's just the way life is. And we've just kind of communicated with each other like, hey, we're aware that we're not okay with that. You know what I mean? And, you know, on top of that, it's like, okay, so we know that we value growth, we know that we value expansion, but we've also built a track record of things like that, right? Where it's like, okay, dance lessons, or investing in ourselves in whatever, help with our business, or help building our bodies, or help with whatever we need in our lifestyle. And we always know, like now there's a track record that every time we do that, life grows exponentially in whatever way. Whether it's like, hey man, we build our business in a way that allows us more freedom, or we have more revenue, or we have new experiences. It's always, you know, it always builds on that. So now how we've, you know, sort of shortened the communication cycle on it is it's really easy for us to say, you know, one of two things. Like one, you know, I'm feeling kind of stuck. So like that gets us on the same page. Like, hey, it's okay. Like now all hands on deck. Somebody's feeling stuck. What do we have to do to get them to feel expansive again? And if I come across something, whatever it might be, an experience, a mastermind, a class, a live event, like whatever it is, it's like, hey, I want to go do this thing. I want to learn this skill. I want to have this experience. Or sometimes just, I want to be around these people.
Is sometimes we even just know like, I need to go on an hour walk by myself, right? Or it's Thursday night and I'm thinking, oh, I should go watch the boys do ABC activity, but really I want to go have a drink with a girlfriend. Or I want to go away on that 2 to 3 day girls trip guilt-free and not feel like I shouldn't be doing those things. And it all started with me recognizing, I'm like, that was a lot of guilt that I was feeling about bettering myself. But what good am I, or what good is Paul, if we're not continually bettering ourselves to better our marriage and to better ourselves as role models for our children and for those people we're so lucky to have in our community? So I was waiting to get permission from somebody else, right? I wanted permission from my husband. I wanted permission maybe from the way other moms saw me as a mother. But really, the only person that I need permission from is myself. But I think that I didn't know what I wanted because I was giving of myself so much to like that initial process of IVF that I couldn't even see at all. Like, what do I want to give myself permission to do? And so now, like you said, like we're big on knowing what we both want and knowing what we value. And it's easier now for me to be like, that is something I know I'm going to give myself full permission to go out and to do, or to spend money on, or to spend time on, because now I know what's important to me. So if you too have ever felt guilty or selfish for asking for something that you wanted, or just having that feeling that you should be doing something else, I have tried to build a community over on Facebook with a free community group with a bunch of women who have felt the same. And we're just trying to make it a normal place to say, hey, I give myself permission to do what I want, or to go after what I want. Wanting more, it doesn't make you ungrateful for what you have, right? So if you wanted to jump on over there and join us, we'd love to have you be a part of that free community group. I'll go ahead and I'll share that link below in the description so you can go join that group.